and we want to thank you for joining us for our inaugural Connecting Communities Summit, where we've intentionally invited diverse perspectives from leaders in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors from across the country, as well as here in California.
Even with $42.5 billion, there is not going to be the ability for government to push this across the finish line without the private sector putting its arms around this opportunity. And what I am willing to pledge to everyone is that we will be always reasonable, always in a listening mode. We want to hear from folks. We've made many different pivots over the course of the program. I anticipate more as we learn more. And we're going to be pragmatic. If it's on budget and it accomplishes the program's goal, then guys, that's what we're going to do. We're going to build and we're going to get folks online. There is not a more significant change that we can make in the technology sector than getting everybody engaged. There just isn't. And when you think about those millions of people, the folks in this room right here, you're here today, you have an opportunity to materially change the long-term outcomes and the day-to-day lived experience of millions of families. That's really remarkable.
At the same time you're actually putting that program together, technology is changing. LEO satellites are changing, wireless is changing. When the program was started, fiber was really kind of thought of as the only real end game solution to this. The good news about the program is it was flexibly architected so that other technologies could be used to deal with the economics.
Every state understands the assignment. Everybody deserves connectivity. And I think Tarana has really changed the narrative around wireless. It's incredible what this technology can do. And when you have that in your pocket, it changes the discourse. I really encourage you, if you have a hybrid solution or a wireless solution, go ahead and submit in round one. It'll give states a better understanding of what it really costs to get to some of these areas. Because if they set that threshold too high, one, they're probably not going to get to universal coverage, but two, wireless won't be provided in areas where it probably is more appropriate than fiber.
So each state in California is included in here has a math problem to solve, which is you have your allocation. This is the amount of money you are getting, and you have to serve everyone. And then you have to do it within the tiered technology rules of the program as we've set them out. And so that math problem, and I think this is really the critical piece behind the extremely high cost per location threshold and how that functions in each state and how that's gonna function in California, is that there are competing pressures here. And so California has to look at their math problem, they have to look at the state and figure out, okay, what is the break point where we are maximizing fiber and then maximizing licensed fixed wireless before moving to other types of technology. And that breakpoint looks different in every state.
The other ISPs in the room probably feel the same way. We've kind of a healthy cynicism built in as an ISP. My CTO likes to say, take what it says on the box, cut it in half again, then you might be getting close to where the distance is and the performance. But the Tarana stuff kind of been doing what it says on the box, so we're very excited to deploy more.
And so we're putting all of our eggs in one basket, and it was really Tarana and the ability to do the 100-100 that allowed us to then be able to tell council and to even be able to teach our teams. And so the part that I complained about with the trees, it actually does just showcase the advancements in wireless that were not there. There is an earmark in time that you all can look at where we didn't have the Tarana stuff, we didn't have the faith that wireless was going to be able to do what it was going to be able to do. And so thankfully, we've been able to see the evolution of the skepticism of wireless potential to see where it is now, and that's obviously, we're seeing that up close in Cleveland, and that led us to Tarana and why we're using them.
During the pilot phase, we were able to, we also questioned Tarana's ability for reach, and we were able to test out, the distance of 23 miles, and we connected. And we were able to get 200 symmetrical services out there. And now that we have Tarana, we're able to reach more homes.
There's just not enough money for everyone to be connected with a wireline technology. It's just not possible. So we have to have more than one tool in our toolbox to be able to connect everyone in this country.
When Tarana came along, either way, it showed that it could be done in a much higher scale with a lot less headaches and with so much more resiliency for the common outages that even though I've only experienced it twice, I knew that the larger a network grows, the more you can expect to have more issues, right? So it has blown every expectation we had for the product out of the water, hands down, and to this day it still happens to do it because even from the last time we were in a panel together, I have some additional stories, and we're 8,000 customers in, and we're still finding out.
I would say that you should always, that's my opinion, that you should always deploy fiber where you can afford and make sense. But you cannot afford and make sense of deploying fiber everywhere. And that's where next generation fixed wireless comes in, because it's a really, really powerful tool in your toolbox that you didn't have before.
Once you start looking at what Tarana can do, a lot of the other OpEx goes away, and now to me it's probably just about the same, if not less, because you're not having to babysit it as much. A lot of the things happen automatically. Could go on and on about the differences, and that to me now brings it to that level of fiber-like service with the same sort of cost model when it comes to the OpEx side. CapEx is nowhere near what fiber will cost.
It's not an either-or question. It's an and question. And that's the way I see it. It's an and answer. It's fiber and fixed wireless access is the right, I think, focus that we should be looking at.
Perfect, yeah.
One of the big issues for the new administrator coming in is, of course, going to be BEAD and how that money is distributed. I don't anticipate, I know there's been a lot of questions, I don't anticipate any of that funding gets clawed back. I think there will be a big push to get the money out the door and get projects moving and get people connected. I can see in a Trump administration where they would move to more of a tech neutral approach as opposed to a fiber preference.
I just want to say that these are all applicant-driven processes. It's not like we go and say, build network here, here's your money. We actually need applications to come in. And that's an important point. One thing that we did differently that we hadn't done in the past was hire caseworkers. We have people who are actually assigned to parts of the state to work with cities, counties, tribes to figure out how to navigate all these complex, confusing broadband programs.
What we've got set up on the building behind us, a single-story building, we've got a base node that's actually going to be communicating to a remote node out here on the patio. But you'll notice that there's no direct path between the two. So the primary RF signal is going to be reflecting off a building next door. Notice also this primary RF path is going through trees. The net result, 980 megabits per second, totally non-line of sight from this patio to a building behind us on the downlink. And we'll get an uplink number here in a few seconds, and that would be 450 megabits per second.